Welcome back, everyone. Now, I will welcome Andrea sorry, we hear something. Okay, I think now you hear better. So we welcome Andrea Frank as a keynote speaker from Bim Factory. He will present us the challenges of building permit digitalization from the point of view of presenters. So, Andrea, the stage is yours, and welcome again.
Thank you, Francesca. I'm going to share my screen. And I think that you can see my presentation. Okay. It's a pleasure for me to be here because I think that when we talk about digitization, many times we are focusing on BIM, on digital twin, but I think that at the moment we need also to speak about traditional activities and traditional tasks that are daily activities for designers and municipalities. So shortly, I'm going to present myself. An engineer, and I'm the director of Bim Factory. I worked in 2014 at Fraunhofer Institute in the post-construction engineering research team with an application of lean construction and last planner system. Then, since 2015 to 2019, I worked as a BIM coordinator and then partner for Division Architecture, which is a design firm located in Brescia in Italy. And then, since last year, I worked as a director for Bim Factory. If you want to follow me, I'll leave my social network links. Who is Bim Factory? Is a consultancy firm working on the implementation of digitization in the construction sector. We are all technicians, we are architects, engineers, and we had the opportunity in the last 5-10 years to implement BIM and digitization in many projects, and we had the opportunity to have feedback by many stakeholders in the supply chain, and so we decided to offer to our customers the result of our experience gained on the field. Our target is to support every kind of stakeholders involved in the supply chain. Clients, for example, many times are investors, but also public administrations. We support designers. We have a lot of experiences with constructors, both general constructors of traditional companies, and of course asset and facility managers, which many times are working together with the clients. Shortly the history, Bim Factory was founded in 2015 as a operative brand on Division Architecture, but since 2019, thanks to the participation of Progetto CMR, another design firm located in Milan, Bim Factory has become a consultancy company with international scope. Now, let's talk about the agenda of this speech. We start with the state of art, particularly in Italy. Then I will talk about the critical topics about building permits. One of the most important topics, which is documentation versus model. And last but not least, the validation of data. We have to say that Italy, since 2017, has introduced a digitization strategy, publishing a regulation which imposed BIM mandatory since 2019 for every complex works over 100 million euro. The target is to reach the BIM mandatory for every kind of work since 2025. At the moment, we are working with BIM mandatory for every complex works over 15 million euro. And we are reaching maybe the most important part of the sector, because Italy is full of small and medium enterprises and companies which are working many times to small works. So now we will reach the target of the market. We have to say also that
sorry,
yeah.
Andrea, sorry for this interruption. I'm not able to see your presentation. So could you please re-share it?
Do you see the presentation?
No. It seems that I'm not the only one.
It writes the failed to publish in share screen.
It may happen that it broke.
Okay, now maybe. Do you see the screen?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, now you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for the problem. Okay. Other important aspects about the implementation of digitization are related to the reskilling of technical departments, of course, the acquisition and retention plan for hardware and BIM software, and the organization strategy about management of processes, data, and conflicts. Of course, we have also technical rules. We have the ISO 19650 about the vision of the strategy about BIM, but we have to say that Italy was one of the first countries having the national annex of ISO, which is UNI 11337. And they are related on different levels because the UNI is focused on the technical parts of digitization, for example, guidelines for exchange information requirements, level of development for the national requirements, and so on. And of course, we have an ecosystem of rules in Italy, comprehending the ISO for IFC standard, for information delivery manual, and structure for classification. So we can say that Italy has all the tools to apply BIM and digitization in these workflows, and maybe in the next year we will reach very important results. But we have some aspect to focus, because now I'm going to show you some numbers reached by source ANCI, National Association for Small Municipalities. And the interesting thing is that near to 50 million people in Italy are living in large municipalities, and only 10 million people are living in small municipalities. It means that the most part of the population is located in large cities, having, of course, some kind of goals, budgets, and targets. But the interesting thing is that the 70% of municipality are represented by small municipalities, having less than 5,000 people. Focusing on this data, we have to say also that about this 70%, close to 80% is represented by small urban areas having less than 3,000 people. So we have a lot of municipalities, we have a lot of fragmentation of the population, and it could be a problem, and now we will see the cause. Critical points, of course, the great number of municipalities, but it means that every municipality has different regulation and codes from the other. And it could be for technical aspects as relations, buildable area, and so on. It's a problem because for the architect, if you live in a country and you work for a building permit in the city, you have to apply some kind of rules. But if you publish the same building permit in another city, you have to change many aspects and many works. And so it is a problem because you have to move the approach in relation of the municipality. Another aspect is that small and medium municipalities are not ready for BIM at the moment, and digital in general. At the moment, digital is mandatory for some kind of works, but we have to move the culture to move from traditional approach to digital approach, and at the moment it is a problem. And of course, for the architects, there are a lot of problems to this kind of daily work. In the last years, we had the opportunities as consultants to interview some public administrations and some designers, and we found an important topic about the loss of information, because we have to say that building permit in Italy many times is moving on an iterative approach. And so there is a lot of communication between the designer and the public administration. This kind of communication is made by letters, by mail, certified mail, phone, direct conversation, and so you have a lot of information unstructured. You have a lot of information that can be transferred by different tools. And it's difficult to find the unmovable information for the application of the building permit. Another topic is regarding what is digital. Before I talk about the culture, at the moment the municipalities are composed mainly by aged technicians, and so for them digital means, for example, the digital signature, or maybe the transfer of information with CD-ROMs, or better, the repository of files. And so many times the digitization means having the scan of a PDF file, having a scan of documents, and so on. But it doesn't mean that we have digitization. It means that we have the same files and the same information unstructured, repository on the digital archive. So we don't have added value in this approach. I think that an opportunity to reduce the wastes it could be the application of a common data environment. At the moment, common data environment is focused maybe on a single project. It's related to Bim, but I think that we can enlarge this topic of CDA in a better way. So I think that common data environment could be helpful for having one platform for communication to reduce the waste of data information. It could be very helpful for having one repository for documentation, and so to optimize the transfer of information and data. Of course, for public administration, it's very important to have protocol for policies, rights, and accesses. It's one of the most important parts for a correct utilization of the tool. And I think that it could be a very helpful tool to reduce waste of time in search and mitigate risk of loss of information. Last but not least, I think that it could be very helpful for having real public data. When I mean real public data, I mean data could be downloaded by citizens, by technical, without spend a lot of time in research in paper archives and so on. Now let's talk about documentation versus model, because in Italy we had to say that digitization is already implemented by technicians. We met a lot of architects and engineers have implemented BIM in their offices, and they spend a lot of time to create value, because what is BIM model? BIM model is 3D geometry model, complete with all information needed for a particular scope or use. But the time and the value spent on this work is not continuous with the submission of the building permit, because every time the request is to have 2D documentation. So this chain is blocked in the passage between the designer and the public administration. And so many times the designers decide to not develop this kind of information, because they lose a lot of time and a lot of money. And some examples for last year, we worked to a building permit for the University of Geneva, and we worked with a BIM model because it was a complex works over 100 million euro, and we had something similar to the 5D, so a relationship between models and cost estimation, but the municipalities wanted the 3 copies, printed copies of the cost estimation documents. So we spent a lot of time to print, to submit this documentation, to control the documentation. We think that nobody can be supported to validate a document having something close to 1,000 pages. So we spend a lot of time not adding value to this process. I think that the BIM models could be very helpful tools to structure data information, in particularly to building permits. BIM models can grant the structurization of information for elements. We can introduce attributes and parameters for physical performances to elements, for example, transmittance, for example, the fire rating, acoustic rating, and so on. But we can introduce data information also for spaces, which are very important and relevant for the building permit because of check of minimal surfaces, minimal area, distances, and so on. So I think that it could be helpful. Another aspect, if you submit the project, you don't submit only the geometries, but you can submit also the structured database of the project that could be published on server or municipality and could be accessible by technicians that will work to this project in the future. So I think that it's very important to optimize this kind of process and to find the return of investment of this activity. Now, let's talk about the validation of data, and I think that it could be an interesting example of the problem for the designer. That is the demonstration of the project, which is the process for the designer. He has to find firstly the requirements for the building permits that can be on different documentation and different codes. He has to analyze the requirements. He has to define the project. Then he must represent the project on 2D and also to demonstrate the project. For example, on the left, we can see the demonstration of the areas. So many times the check on the drawings are made physically. So you as a designer, you must demonstrate the dimensions, the small areas that compose the larger areas, and so you spend a lot of time to this activity. Of course, if you have a BIM model, you can query the model. You can click to the objects and having answers about this kind of data. Digital query that can be done for performances, for volumes, and for surfaces. I think that it could be an important opportunity to implement also the check of the data. Check of the data, which is composed on different steps. It could be a model checking or a code checking. Of course, when we talk about model checking, maybe it's more interesting for the project, for the designers. But also, we have to say that in Italy, we had a lot of buildings, historical buildings, and the public administration is always interested in possible clashes between expansions project and existing buildings. And so it could be helpful to have some rule sets and some possibilities to automate this kind of control. And of course, also code checking. So when you validate a building permit, you have to validate data as surfaces, as areas, as densities. This kind of information can be validated automatically with BIM tools or in other way. But surely it could be automated by digital tools. To have an automatized check, I think that it could be very helpful to have also the digitization of information requirements. Because many times the information requirements are not quantitative, but are qualitative. And I think that we must have a more computational approach to give the information requirements. It could be very helpful to have rules for automatic calculation of areas, volumes, and surfaces. For the designer, it's very interesting to have a data set for technical codes. In this way, the designers and the public administration can speak the same language, and also specific data set for element performances. So if the designer has the information requirements, he can monitor these requirements during the project, and maybe he can spend less time and less money in the phase of dialogue with the public administration during the submission. And last but not least, we are talking about public administration, and so we must spend some word about open standards and open format. At the moment, the most important open standard for digitization in construction sector is IFC. In Italy, we have to spend a lot of time to divulgate the culture of open format, because many times public administration are close to the problem of the tool and not to the problem of the data. And so I think that FC could be a very helpful tool, but having actually the model view definition and standard preset, I think that the national municipalities must define also attributes, needs, and for data users and scopes, because many times they need more information of what is standard, is permitted by Builders Smart International. And so I think that we as country, we had to spend some time to define and standardize this approach. To summarize in conclusions, I think that it could be helpful, could be very helpful to have an implementation of common data environment for public administration and the transmission of information and documents with designers. I think that we have to standardize codes and regulation to not have particular rules between municipalities. I think that BIM models could be very helpful as containers of data and information to apply some other activities as the project validation model based and not document or paper based. But we had to spend some time to standardize also information requirements and to the implementation of open standards. For me, it's all, and I open for any questions.
Thank you, Andrea, for interesting presentation. So please, the audience can pose the questions or raise your hand for discussing and makes questions to Andrea. So we can start. We have few questions here already. First, how ready and enthusiastic do you think professionals are to start this digitalization journey in general? I mean, the most part of professionals.
I think that Italy has a great fragmentation of the market because there are large studios, large companies, and small companies, small studios composed of one or two designers. And so we have a division of the market, and many times large companies are just ready for BIM, for digitization. But when we talk with small studios, we have the problem of money. So the implementation of digital is expensive, and they want to have the return of the investment. So if the public administration requires digital or BIM, they have no problem to implement, but they want the feedback about their work. It is a very important thing. At the moment, digital is a competitive skill to gain the market in construction.
Okay, thank you. So it's really something that we should consider while developing the use case and the process, I think. Second question, what point do you use when you want to persuade the responsible person, municipality, to focus to data instead of any software tool? Good question.
We have to move the culture, because the municipalities are stopped to a traditional approach, so they have a lot of problem to understand the value of data, and so they are linked to the tool. It's a problem because I think that professional can use every kind of tools, and of course the public administration cannot have every kind of tools. So they must work to open format, to open standard. They have to apply tools answering to this kind of need.
Thank you. We have a raised hand, so I can hand the microphone to Franco Coin.
Hi. I have something that is a little bit a jurisdictional question. We were discussing yesterday with some Japan members of Building Smarts. Did you face during your experience the issues of documentation reliability for a long time, talking about with institutions? So the question is more or less why we do not have something like a PDF-A format to say, okay, this is a steady information for long time, for any time.
We have to say one thing. I think that digital is in continuous improvement, and I think that standards are going to develop day by day. And so I think that at the moment we had to spend some money, some time to adjourn the documents and the data year by year. Because also we have to say that there are some market strategies that are blocking the continuous improvement of the data, because for example, you have problem if you open a file having 10 years of achievement, and so you have to spend the adjournment of the file and the adjournment of the documents. But what we need is to have always adjourned data. If you have data, you can do more things. You can do many other aspects.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. We have two more questions. Started a bit late, but we can shortly answer, I think. So first question regarding the validation. Do you think that it is important also to validate the new building with the requirement of urban plans, namely geolocation, footprint, area, height?
Yeah, I think that it's important also to validate the new projects. Yeah.
Okay. Second, how is the government, local governments, fostering the process of raising the digital maturity degree? Do they support municipalities and eventually companies' offices to advance?
It's a good question because at the moment I don't see it. I think that every kind of municipalities is delegated to move themselves, and so it's a problem because many times the municipalities are moving to private consultants, and so we have no a common strategy, and so we have a different approach. Municipality by municipalities. I think that it could be helpful if the government has a common rule, a common approach to support this kind of implementation.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, another question for Italy could be, are they aware that there could be the possibility to switch to digital building permit? But I won't raise this one. I love Italy. So thank you very much, Andrea, and everyone for a nice discussion. Now I leave the stage to Ijsbrand, who will chair the next session. And please enjoy the next session, and always post your questions here in the questions tab.
So, good morning, everyone. My name is Ijsbrand van Stralen. I'm from the Dutch research organization TNO, and I will chair the first part of session 2. It's about international experience with digital building permits. And we will start with the presentation of Ophelie Vinsdon. And Ophelie will give a presentation about the prototype development by the state of Geneva to make use of KISS and BIM for getting a building permit. Ophelie, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction. So I will share my screen. Do you see my screen?
Not yet.
You see it? Is it okay?
No, Philippe, we cannot see your presentation yet.
No.
Now we see your presentation.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So, sorry. So I will show you the digital building permit we made in the state of Geneva. It's a prototype for now for the BIM part. But so for start, just some key fact about Geneva. It's it's a state inside the federal state of Switzerland. It's more likely a city state, and it's about 218 square kilometers. So we have two projects inside one. It's the first one is the BIM project, which is to develop the BIM inside all the states, and not only in the regulation authority, but also in the build assets management and in the territory management. And the other project is to digitalize building permits. So the state of Geneva started 2 years ago a digital platform, which is ACDMAT, for the building permits, digital building permits, and now delivers around 80% of the building permits in a complete digitalization way, based on 2D PDF and online forms. And we started to create a prototype for the digital building permits based on BIM model. So that's what I will present to you now. The strategy on developments for the BIM model building permits is to we had a reflection about the integration of the BIM inside the building permit process. Then we define all the requirements and all the different modules we needed to do that. And we are doing the structuration of the data we need for the BIM model inside the building permit. And we had also a reflection about the Geneva's regulation and how to translate it into digital rules. So we create a prototype, what I will show you after. And now we are integrated the prototype inside the whole system and inside ACDMAT. So for the we have a view about the life cycle of 3D digital information. We have a really huge geodatabase, the SITG, which is in the GIS way. So the goal is to extract some of this GIS data for the area around the project, and to do it in the BIM way. So we can use all the use case in BIM and after the project evolve in the BIM way. And then we will integrate this data inside the geo database, the SITG, and use all the use case in the GIS way. I will not really explain all these steps, but that's all the steps for the digital building permits. And I will show you for example, for a case where we concentrated our approach, and I will show which steps it will affect. So the first is the GeoBIM, BIM, the conversion of BIM and GIS, and the structuration of the data. So what we are doing is mapping all the GIS layers with BIM objects and parameters, and create an EFC, an export from the GIS data. And we are also structuring the BIM model, the submission BIM model, and create also to help all the other parts create templates and export templates, property templates and export templates with MPD, and to structure correctly the submission model. What we encountered is that GIS layers are structured differently than BIM objects, and we have to match layers with objects and also layers with parameters, and we have 2D layers inside 3D objects. So it's complicated to see which one have to go in object, in parameters, and to translate all that. We have also problems with georeferencing, because all software are different with georeferencement, so it's really difficult. And also the importation of the IFC model inside modeling software. So the goal is to extract all the urban plans, all the referential data, cadastral data, and so on, and to create an IFC model with all the referential data. So that's what we extract from our database. It's so it's an IFC with the correct structuration, the correct Bim objects with IFC Bim classes, and we have the upper ground and the underground with all the canalization and so on. The other aspect is the data visualization and thematic visualization. So what we are doing is integrating BIM model inside a web cell, GIS web cell, 3D GIS web cell. And also we are developing our own BIM viewer because we wanted to integrate it in the whole system. And also developing specific view to analyze BIM model for the digital building permit in a professional angle. What we encountered is that also the georeferencing for the 3D GIS website, and also problems with territorial objects in IFC. So what we have is the integration of the IFC inside the whole state, the whole canton. So for the SCG, we are using S3 technology. So we use also S3 technology for the GIS part. And for the BIM part, the BIM viewer, we use only open source library, and we made our own development. And so we created some rules to see the project with a professional angle, with for all the professional inside the state. They are seeing some aspect from the model for the building permits. So we were using some thematic view to do that. The other part is the data checking. So we developed our own checker also. So the first step was to identify the regulation which are translatable into programmable rules. Also the structuration of the BIM submission model to do that. And we are currently implementing some rule sets for the structuration of the data, so the completeness and the structuration of the BIM submission model, and also for some construction regulations. So the problem are that the regulation is not thought through 3D model, and we have some difficulties to translate it into programmable rules. So we are currently analyzing that. So what we want is to have a checker online for testing during the creation of the model for the professional to have a checker to test during the creation of the model the structuration of the data if it fits the rules for the digital building permit in Geneva. So to do that, we use also open source libraries, and we program that in our own way. We use the methodology RAISE to translate the construction rules to do that, and the other part is to integrate inside the whole system, so the building permits platform, ACBMAX, So what we are doing is to connect all the modules, the viewer, the checker, and all the other modules to Acidimat, the platform, the first platform to depose a project. We also are doing the filling forms automatically for the building permit.
Okay, I'm sorry, but we lost Ophelia for a moment, so I propose that we will wait for a short while.
Hello, do you hear me?
Okay, Ophelia, we hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I have to mention that we still have 5 minutes.
Okay. Perfect.
So probably you can start also with your prototype to show it.
Yeah. I have quickly done. So we connect all the module, and we are filling forms from the Bim model, and we are also using BCF format to have the notice, the permit notice on the Bim model to localize all the notice on the to do the building permit. And what we encountered is that the data structuration is really difficult to order it, to link it to the building permit forms, because there are a lot of forms inside the Geneva, and it's really difficult. So what's next for us? It's to completely integrate all the system, and then after the building permits, the state of Geneva is also responsible to check what is happening on the field. And the other project we are thinking of is to digitalize also this part, and to use Bim to do it also. So done. I'll go on the question part.
Okay, we have some time for questions. I will start with the first one. What is the format of 3D GIS data that you convert to IFC? And what do you use to convert them?
We are using the FME to transform our GDB inside Bim model, IFC Bim model. So yeah.
Okay. A last one. I don't know if it's a real question. From YouTube. Quick discussion is to see if parametric softwares can assist in bridging this gap for interpreting the rules to Bim rules. What is your experience with it?
Parametric software. It's not really for the building permits, but we are not using really softwares to do it. We are doing it manually to translate rules. but I think it will be really useful. But for now, we are doing it manually and test it, and then perhaps we will do it with software.
Okay, but what do you think within the future? You already have a vision?
It's a really good idea, and to use also artificial intelligence to do it. It's really, really useful.
Okay. Afili, thank you very much for this presentation and give some insight, Geneva, and what you are doing. And we will continue with a presentation from Ali Ismail. And it's also about BIM and GIS. And he will give an introduction about Dubai project. And about a BIM e-submission platform. Ali, I want to give the floor yours. You can try to upload your presentation or put it on the screen. Ali, we cannot hear you. Your microphone is on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Ali.
Okay,
thank you.
So sorry for the technical issue. I had to restart.
No problem. But
it seems
you have to share a presentation.
Is not working. Okay, so I will share the full screen. So thanks a lot for the introduction. And here's my presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I hope you see my screen as well.
Yes, we see your screen.
Great. So, first of all, allow me to thank all of the organization team for having us in this very wonderful workshop. I will start by a brief introduction of myself. My name is Ali Ismail. I work as a BIM expert in Dubai municipality in the GIS Center and a member of UAE Building Smart. I am expert in OpenBIM and IT application in AC, and the founder of IFC Open Server, which is an OpenBIM graph and data server for IFC models. In the slide, you can see my LinkedIn and ResearchGate if you are interested to connect. First of all, I will give some information about Dubai Municipality and GIS Center where I work. So the Dubai Municipality is one of the largest government institutes in United Arab Emirates, and it is one of the leading institutes in terms of providing smart projects and smart services. The vision of Dubai Municipality is to developing a happy and sustainable city, and over time Dubai Municipality has grown up to 34 departments with more than 125 sections and almost 11,000 employees and workers. GIS Center is one of the sections or department of Dubai Municipality, and he is leading the BIM digital transformation and BIM adoption in Emirates through working with this few stakeholders and developing a BIM roadmap and BIM standard, and also taking care of the e-submission for BIM models. So the mission of the GIS Center actually to working on different projects is to have a digital twin of the whole of Emirate of Dubai, and that this digital twin will include not only the GIS information, but also the building in different levels and providing this information through smart services to the government entities and also for the private sector. So I invite you maybe to look at the GeoDubai AE, where you can read about the project and initiative led by the GIS Center, and also to scan the QR code if you are interested to have a kind of virtual tour inside the GIS hub of the GIS Center. So what is the state of building permit in Dubai? So I believe we are doing very well. And if we look at this simple classification of building permit systems or majority levels, we can consider us somehow like reaching soon the level 2, which is up to submitting BIM models and having a kind of partially automated review and having supporting software tools to converting these models to rules and to GIS information and so on. And our target, of course, to reach the optimum level where we can have maybe in the future a kind of fully automated and fully integrated services and workflows. United Arab Emirates, represented by Dubai Emirate, is doing very well, as I said, with regarding to dealing with construction permits. So according to the World Bank and the famous Ease of Use Doing Business report, we are currently ranked number 3 in the world, very close behind Malaysia and behind Hong Kong. The last year, or we started 2019, but last year we started the BIM adoption project. So this is a very simple history timeline for the adoption of BIM in Dubai. So the first initiative has been done by Dubai municipality back to 2013 by issuing 2 public circulars to the supply chain consultants and contractors and engineering offices in Dubai mandating BIM. It was a kind of soft mandating and recommendation to use BIM for a certain type of project, like according to the size or to the hospital or public building, etc. 4 years ago, almost, a new committee has been formed called the Committee for Building Permit Procedure Development. And the target of that committee was to unify and harmonize and standardize the building regulation in Dubai, and also to harmonize the workflows, because in Dubai, as a very expanding and evolving city, we don't have only one building authority. Dubai is the biggest one, but we have also other authorities. So there have been some need for doing harmonization and also for adoption of new technologies. And here comes the idea that we start by initializing a new project and new initiative to adopt BIM for digital building permit. I forgot to mention now in Dubai, we already have since almost 15 years an e-submission, electronic submission platform. But as in most countries, it uses drawing and use digital format for working. And then we have a problem with dealing with data after issuing the building license. In 2019, we created a POC, a kind of proof of the concept for the high management and for the end user to show the value of adopting BIM for building permit. And we presented in the Cityscape 2019. And officially in January 2020, last year, we started a unique and strategic project called Dubai BIM Roadmap Project, where I will say some details about it. And we are expecting in almost 2 months to have the BIM e-platform or e-submission platform ready to be tested by external users and by consultants and contractors. So the Dubai BIM e-platform is still a work in progress, but I believe in 1 year we achieved a lot. So some information about Dubai BIM Roadmap project. The main scope is developing a roadmap for the whole Dubai building sector, not only focus on the building permit, and to develop BIM standard and BIM tools and BIM template for building application. Here the focus on the permitting process, and also to develop a platform, a cloud-based platform for BIM e-submission and to have also integrated tools to transform or convert the data between BIM to GIS and GIS to BIM. The main stakeholders are the three biggest building permit authorities: Dubai Municipality, Dubai Development Authority, and Tarakhis. And we have a great team working with us, the vendors like iTech Holding, McDonald, and Integrated Intelligent Network Solutions. So the team of the project is really huge. So we are working since 1 year very hard. The expected output of the project, as I mentioned, is developing the short and long-term roadmap. This is finished. I will share it in the next slide. And also developing BIM standard unified on the whole level of Dubai Emirate, and maybe we hope in the future on the whole level of United Arab Emirates. And we are adopting totally open BIM standard like IFC, model view definition, and BIM collaboration format. And the standard itself is aligned with the ISO 19650 according to the terms and to the general description of the BIM method. Also, as I mentioned, one of the expected output is the BIM e-submission platform with automated code compliance checking and the integration between BIM and GIS, and at the last, also developing BIM capacity and raising awareness through training and events and learning material for the supply chain. So this is a screenshot of the BIM roadmap. I will not go at all on details due to the limited time, but if you are interested to see a presentation about details of the Dubai BIM roadmap, please scan the QR or when you receive the presentation after the event. If you would like to go to talk about the process, as I mentioned in this project, we are trying to standardize not only to build a software, but we are trying to standardize the BIM requirement and at the same time also to standardize the workflow. As I mentioned, we have 3 different building permit authorities. Each one has different internal work process and different rules for the users, and as you can imagine that there are some conflict or changes or differences between all of them. So if you look for the example for the pre-construction phase, I will not go exactly on details, but we see on the right side main aspect of the workflow. So first of all, that the submission is, as I said, based on IFC model. We don't accept native files. Maybe native file will be as an optional. And there is a kind of self-checking for the design rule for the primary and the final design by the consultant himself before submitting the final design or the primary design officially to the permit authority. And we have also in this stage integration with GIS and non-object certification authorities. For GIS, for example, we integrate the setbacks and zone regulations and so on. And for NOC also, we provide the information for other authorities like Dubai Land Department, Road and Transport, and Civil Defense, etc. And during this phase, when the consultant doing the self-checking, he can get automatically a report for violations and problems with the building code, and the communication happen through exporting BIM collaboration format, and of course other formats like PDF and Excel and so on. One of the aspects also in this phase that we extract information from the IFC model automatically about the areas, about the semantic data, about the structure of the building, etc. And at the end of this stage, there is the first integration as BIM and GIS is to convert the final design after getting the approval from the building permit authorities to the GIS. Next, start the construction phase. In the first phase, the consultant is the main actor, beside, of course, the building permit authorities, the NOC authorities. In the construction phase, the contractor and the subcontractor play the roles where they have also option to do a kind of self-checking, for example, for safety rules or for a green building. And they can also update the construction progress and making some other application during the construction phase, like automatic quantity takeoff of the model and so on. There is also a module for supporting virtual reality and augmented reality maybe in the future. So when an engineer visits a website, he can also compare as built with as permitted. And at the end of this stage, when everything is okay, it will be the completion, the issuing of the completion certificate. And if the contractor is providing as-built model, in case if there are some changes in the design model, we can have the second kind of BIM to GIS integration and convert the as-built model to GIS. So this is briefly a kind of simplified workflow for these two phases. Maybe I will have some time to show the live demo, but I thought to put at first some screenshot to go through the process in the presentation, just in case if the technical issues happen or the time is limited. So this is the landing page for the platform where user can log in. So it's a software as a service solution working on the cloud. And here's the example of the details of project where the consultant, for example, already created a project and uploaded the BIM models. And we see here on the top, we have many options for visualizing the model in the 3D viewers or assigning rules by the admin or the internal staff, getting the extracted information from the BIM model and converting BIM model to GIS. And we see always in which stage we are, and there's also options to do a self-checking, and also after doing the self-checking of the model to submit the model for review. This is a standard example for a real villa here in Emirates provided by Concerted Solutions Company. Thanks for them. And we see here, for example, the online viewer with a lot of options for filtering and extracting information or inquiring information and so on. And we see also that almost all information attached to the building element can be edited, even if in case if we want to add missing information, so we can add a new attribute or we can edit the attribute of this element. And here's a list of some sample of the rules which can be automated for this model as a villa. So there is this tab, complaints check, where the user click and select which rules he would like to check. And then he got automatically a report for the violations or for the element which satisfy these rules. And here we have an example, for example, checking the maximum allowed height for the raiser of a stair. And after checking these rules, the user can export this result by different format, and one of them is the BIM collaboration format as mentioned, as I already said. And here we see, for example, by the rule name to avoid having duplication in the issues, and we have the internal IDs of the model. So in this case, the consultant can go back to the BIM design team and ask them to solve this problem or to clarify it with the building permit authorities and resubmit the model again. We also adopting BIM collaboration format not only for the automated code checking for this auto-generated report, but also at any stage the internal staff of the building permit authorities can create issues and assign them to the users like the designers or the contractor or subcontractor, etc. And this issue or this issue management module will help to have a very nice way to collaborate, not only through normal communication, but here you can always have the same view of the issue, and you can make a measurement and dimension or add some annotation. So we are trying here to implement the full standard of BIM collaboration format to the ultimate level. This is an example for the database of the rules. As we see here, we are adopting Dubai Building Code, which is the new code as the output of one of these projects for the committee, which harmonize and update all existing code among all building permit authorities. So we have almost 800 pages of new code, and it's a little bit complex to analyze everything, but we are doing our best to maximize the number of rules which can be automated until the end of the project. And the platform has an open structure, so we are not working with any commercial software on black boxes. So we believe with some training and some experience from some IT people or engineering with IT background, they can even write rules and themselves and extend the database. So in this scope of this project, we are working almost with 200 different rules, all of them extracted from Dubai building code. And for the data requirement for the BIM model, as other presentation we heard that this is a very difficult task. Our approach is to looking for the BIM, the standardized property set from Building Smart. And if we didn't find them, or if there are some local condition where we need to add further attribute or further property set, so we define them. And for every property set, we have a kind of modeling strategy which limited, how to say, the freedom of modeling, just to be sure that at the end, that the end user will follow this standard to have a good quality models. For some technical information about the rules, at the moment we are supporting 4 kind of rules. The first one is the simplest one, is the attribute rules, where we are looking for a combination of criteria based on alphabetic or semantic information. So it works as under the concept like we filter some element according to the class or the classification, and then we check some property set and property single values to determine if the rule is satisfied or not. The second kind of rules is the ratio rule. In some cases, we need, for example, to check the ratio of windows area compared to the area of the space, etc. So we created this ratio rule. And the third one, which is a little bit complex, is the geometry rule. I should here say that we are converting internally the BIM models to a geospatial database in the background. So we can also run queries related to the location and distance and size of the element. So in this rule, we can, for example, compare the distance between a room or an office with the exit door for emergency, or we can do a simple clash detection, or for example to check the clearness, the clear height of a stair or a corridor, etc. So this is a little bit complex. It needs more time than the first 2 kind of rules, but it's very powerful. And the last type of rules, which is for advanced user, when defining a rule is very difficult to be done in one step, and we need to aggregate and to filter different set of elements and then to compare them with each other. So we have a kind of generic SQL rules where we can write really complex rules to achieve advanced rules. The rule checker or the interface of platform has a very user-friendly and intuitive and simple to use interface, where any user after a small short training can create rules himself. So as we see, we can add the name of the rule and the reference to the building code, and then select the IFC class of the first object. In this case, this is a ratio rule, the second class of the second kind of object, and then we can even have, maybe I have to move this a little bit, we can have this spatial or geometric relationship, for example, within distance, included in, intersected with, etc. So this is the geometry. The integration with the GIS, we have different integration with GIS services. First of all, one of them is the checking, for example, the setbacks for the plot area or the parcel ID. So at the beginning, when the project is created, one of the elements is the parcel ID, and then we ask a GIS service to give us the borders of that parcel ID, and then we have a kind of simple visualization check to see if any part or edge of the building is the distance is less than what is according to the setback or regulation or zone regulations. So as we see on the picture on the left side. And as I mentioned also, the second type of integration with GIS is the BIM to GIS, where we convert the BIM models in IFC format to a kind of 2.5 building representation. So we created a GIS data model for building, And in this model, we can save the footprint of the element as 2D, and for non-standard element or complex shape of element, we can save the shape of geometry of that element in 3D. And this information will be saved in a GIS database for the building in one central database, which can be then provided as a 3D model on the level of the whole city, as I will see on the next slide. So this is one of the projects which we are working on in GIS Center called Dubai here. And here we see an example for a building converted using a standard, using the same GIS model which I was talking about. And the advantage which we have here, that we can convert the model from CAD and from BIM at the same time, and the result is the same. So I believe this building has been converted from CAD drawing, and this one on the previous slide is converted from the BIM model. So at the end, as I mentioned, as a GIS center, we have a vision to build the digital twin and to have GIS and BIM integrated services, and this will help us to provide a lot of smart services for a lot of government authorities, and also to support the building digital twin and digital building permit, and giving the consultant from the beginning a lot of options to use the GIS data when he starts, for example, the primary design of his model, to do some things like shadow analysis or line of review analysis, and to provide other government entities and public sector with this building data inside the GIS context. So this is mainly our vision in GIS Center. So with this, I finish my presentation. If we have time, I can make a quick demo for the platform, or at least show it in action, not only as a picture. Okay. So I don't know how many minutes we have, or if we have already questions.
Ali, we already run out of time almost. I think we can go to the questions. Are there questions? I have one question. Very interesting what you showed us, Ali. Which parties are using this tool, or are you expecting that they will use the tool?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part of the question.
Now, which parties are using this tool?
This tool, as I mentioned, is developed for the all building permit authorities in Dubai. So actually, Dubai Municipality and Dubai DDA and Tampis, this is the three biggest, and it will be made available for all other building permit authorities. And when we reach the stage that the platform is ready for using and we issue a BIM mandate, so it will be used actually by all consultants and contractors in Dubai.
Okay.
And at the same time, as I mentioned, there is an integration with other building permit, with other government authorities like Civil Defense, Dubai Land Department, and so on. So we have also the NOC authorities included in the platform.
Okay. Ali Ismail, thank you very much for your presentation. And I want to continue with the last speaker this morning.
Thank you very much.
And that is Christopher Ratsivir from Estonia. And he will introduce the BIM-based permit procedure developed in Estonia to be able to use a BIM model for getting a permit. Christopher, the floor is yours. Try to show your presentation on the screen.
So if you could kindly confirm if it is visible.
Yeah, we can see it on the screen. Thank you.
And I think someone else has the microphone inside. I can hear some echo. So if you're not presenting, please turn the microphones off. Hi, my name is Christopher Ratvir. I'm a BIM project manager for the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications in the Republic of Estonia. And today I'm doing a slide presentation about BIM-based permit process in Estonia. First of all, like why to do this? The objective is to increase the productivity in the construction industry by 3 times by 2030 with various developments run by the ministry, and BIM-based building permit is one of these developments. Currently our productivity is even below EU average, and we must raise it to be able to compete. And how can government change the process? Then there is the way to, with legislation, the education, the process improvement, and I think what is the most important is to create an environment for secure and reliable data exchange. And in Estonia, we are calling it e-construction platform. And BIM-based building permit is just one of these developments that will sit under this big umbrella of e-construction platform. We had a proof of concept, so the prototype for BIM-based permit process. It was done already in 2019, funded by European Commission. And as you can see, one of the screenshots here from that proof of concept, the main things were that it would be web-based. It must have a simple user interface. There should be done some rule-based and algorithm-based checks. It must be on open standards and formats. We are doing the IFC. It must enable the faster permit processing and quality controlling. During the proof of concept, we tried to analyze and implement 9 different checks. Some of them which would be like rule-based, like height of the building or facade finishing material or minimum width of the doors, which would be the simpler checks, but also some algorithm-based, more difficult checks. For example, the existence of needed safety barriers and length of evacuation routes. Well, the process flowchart during the proof of concept and also at the during phase is so that the applicant would upload the BIM model into building registry. Then it goes into the BIM storage. It will be checked if it is a valid IFC. If it is valid IFC, then there are like BIM model checks, BIM area checks, and then it is verified. If there are a lot of errors, the applicant can revise their model and start again with the submission process. If the applicant sees that there are enough successes and to all the warnings they can give good valid reason, they can submit the application and it goes to the permit processor, where they can inspect the results of these automated checks and do some additional manual visual checks and either approve or reject the application, and by the approving to issue a building permit. At the moment, we are on the stage 1, what we call it stage 1, the initial development of the actual custom software. We started in September 2020 and aim to finish this stage by September 2021. It must upload BIM models and store them in the Estonian building registry. And what is Estonian building registry is not only the database for the building data, but it is also a procedural environment so that all the building permits, demolition permits, certificates of occupancy and such will be run through the Estonian building registry. We have been running it already since 2016, beginning of 2016, and at the moment there is possibility to apply for a building permit by 2D documentation, which would be like drawings and texts in the PDF formats, but with this development we add the BIM option as well. Also, the data needs to be extracted from the BIM model to the application forms and into the database so that the user must not manually insert the data into the building permit application form if that data is already present in the model. Also, we need to visualize the model in this development, not to run some additional softwares for the model viewing. And we want to get all the check reports in the BIM collaboration format. And also there will be a product owner application so that any additional checks could be added. Some checks that give many false positives or false negatives could be put on hold until repaired, and so that the software could be more easily developed further. There are some screenshots from the mockups because we are developing the software and we don't have the software running already, but it's in the progress. This is just a view inside the building registry. There are like different tabs like buildings, the BIM model, the persons, the documentation, the submission. It is the building permit application tab from the building registry. And as you can see here is the BIM viewer. At the moment, this is just a screenshot from the digital twin, and in idea there would be the building that will be getting building permit. And here it will be the uploaded BIM model, and the surrounding area would be taken from the digital twin. And for that process to happen correctly, the BIM model submitted must have correct georeference according to Estonian reference system. Also, there is a possibility for discipline selection so that the applicant or the permit issuer can see only relevant information. They can either turn off or turn on the different disciplines like architecture, construction, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and so on. In addition to discipline selection, there is also possibility of floor selection so that you can turn on and off different floors so that it can be better visualized the information that is needed at the moment. And also all the functions that are with all the modern BIM viewers so that you can rotate, zoom in, zoom out, and see it how you like. And also with the BIM model checks and the data extractions, here you can see the check results table, which are filtered by the regulations and the demands from the different regulations, so that the green color would be if the success and if the check is successful, yellow would be warnings, and red would be errors. And also there is a button to export the extracted data to the permit application so that to avoid the manual insertion. For the permit issuer, it is also important to add remarks or comments to the checks. So if they see like if this warning is relevant and needs to be fixed, they can add the comment to that and define the purpose of that, if they need to fix it or not, and give some additional information. And also the permit, the main permit issuer can manage the comments added by the different departments, so that they can decide like if to address this comment from electrical company, for example, to the applicant, or they think that it is not relevant regarding this permit issuing process. And what are we checking at the moment? We are trying to automatize about 60 different checks that are implemented from 6 different regulations at the moment. For example, the requirements for housing, requirements for construction design, special needs of persons with disabilities, also fire safety requirements. And what is extremely important when to implement these checks, that all the submitted models must meet public sector client BIM requirements, so that data, what is presented in the IFC format, must be standardized. For the public sector client BIM requirements, we had the stage 1 already in 2019 to consolidate the knowledge of the leading BIM organizations to the unified BIM requirements and to make it one central document. It is also a common guide for both buildings and infrastructure, and also an input to the preparation of future standards. For the second stage of the public sector client BIM requirements, which we finished in December 2020, was the main goal to verify the public sector client guide and upgrade its feasibility. Also, detailed testing of the data content tables by creation of the template model and validating this model against these data content tables. Public sector client BIM data content tables are basically user-defined property sets. There are 51 different tables in Excel formats for all the necessary disciplines like architecture, structure, HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. And this is just one example of this property set. This is architectural floor covering. There are attributes, IFC property set, IFC reference, the data type, the example, also the project stages that it must be presented. For example, the sketch, preliminary project, the main project, the technical design, and as-built model, and also an explanation. Here are also some examples of the user-defined property sets for IFC site, IFC building, and IFC space to show what kind of data must be presented. And here it is visible that for the IFC site, IFC building, and IFC space, all the data must be presented, and it doesn't depend on which kind of project stage the process is at the moment. And also the user-defined property set for a specific element can be different, varying from which discipline it is presented from. Here is the example of IFC wall and also the IFC wall, but one property set here in the green background is the IFC wall in the architectural model, and the below user-defined property set is for IFC wall presented in the structural model. And in addition to the data content tables, we need one unified classification system, and Estonia is using the Construction Classification International, so the CCI, and there are some local tables added to the system, so we are calling it CCI EE, which is based on the CCS of Danish and then further developed. There are 15 tables in Excel format. There are 6 core tables that are international tables, and with a red background and yellow background, there are local tables that are added to the system. The classification system will be used in government systems like building registry and also added to the Estonian BIM requirements. And to further develop this classification system, there is government-funded implementation project starting this year. Also, some challenges about legislation. For example, if we are...
excuse me, Chris, you have only a few minutes left. Is that a problem?
I'm wrapping it up.
Okay.
So that first challenge of when we are controlling 60 checks from 6 regulations, we need to know exactly when the regulation is activated, so to define the activation mechanism. And for some regulations, it can be quite challenging to do so. For example, here, for the requirements of the disabled people, there are 3 different activation clauses, and they are not so well defined, so that there are some challenges of defining them so that they would be machine readable, so that the software would know when to activate this package and when not. Some other challenges with legislation and BIM requirements are that some mostly used BIM softwares are not capable of exporting all necessary data to IFC. For example, the IFC zone, there are some softwares that I'm aware of that cannot put user-defined property set to the zone element, which gives us some obstacles when we're developing the system. Also, the BIM requirements at the moment, they don't have all the necessary data needed for checks against the building code. Also, the classification system is still on early stage, and we don't have enough use cases, hopefully, which the implementation project will resolve. And some legislations leaves too much space for different interpretations. But to wrap it up, why are we doing this? We want to speed up the permit authorization process, make this process consistent and transparent, to enable the sector to work innovatively and hopefully laying the foundation for future technology. Thank you very much. So the collaboration and transparency is the key to make public data accessible and reusable. Definitely use international open standards and be bold and agile. Thank you very much.
Okay, Christopher, thank you very much. We have time for one question. Given many building works are actually smaller and lower value, will there always have to be a low-tech option for applicants for building permits, regardless of the jurisdiction, unless they are considered exempt?
I'm trying to answer this question. We are not making the BIM process mandatory. There is still like the option to still get the building permit for traditional way, so that we are just giving an option to go to this BIM-based building permit. But for some smaller expansions of extension of a house, it can be the case that BIM-based building permit is not the feasible solution at the moment, and the traditional building permit is faster. But wherever the better way is possible, then this way should be used, so that we are not mandating the BIM process, but we are making this just as an option.
Okay. So, and then actually you started, so you will see how that proceeds. Okay, we are now at the end of the first part, the morning part of session 2. I would like to thank all the presenters for the presentation, and also I would like to thank the audience for their answers. And now it's time for a break, lunch break, and we will start within half an hour, and that's 1 o'clock local time. Thank you very much. Francesca, you have something to say, or?
Thank you very much, Icebrand and everyone. No, I don't have much to say. Just enjoy this short lunch break, and after having a pleasant walk and some food, you can also enjoy the network lounge if you like, and see you later. Just enjoy.